Tonight on KGW News, National Guard deployment in Portland hangs in the hands of 3 judges.
Ninth Circuit is known to be a bit of a hot bench.
What today's hearing reveals about which way they might be leaning. Plus, as troops hit the streets in Chicago, is this what their mission could look like here? Then,
they're all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people.
well, that's what Secretary Kristi Noem apparently got out of her visit to the Rose City. How she's threatening to double down. And later,
cut a rose down, but then a couple months later, and come back twice as strong.
color and culture outside Moda, the inspiration behind these brand new murals. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molto. Let's get right to the latest on the possible deployment of troops to Portland, with a case playing out in a federal appeals court today as protests continue at the ICE facility. Let's give you a live look at the building in South Portland tonight. It's been largely peaceful, but in the last few minutes, the gates opened up to let vehicles out, a half dozen or so. You can see the street there in front of the ICE building filled with Federal Protective Services who come out. This is rather routine as they come out to let the vehicles out and then back into the gates. Protesters, you can see right in their faces up until that blue line on the ground, which marks public property and federal property. We also saw agents chase someone down the street away from the facility a few minutes ago. We'll check in with our Alma McCarty on the ground there in just a few minutes for the update. This all comes, by the way, with the Ninth Circuit set to rule at any moment on whether to overrule a judge here and permit 200 Oregon National Guard troops to hit the streets. The state arguing today President Trump exceeded his authority, though 2 of the 3 judges pushed back on whether the original ruling, which granted a temporary restraining order, gave enough deference to the president.
I'm sort of trying to figure out how a district court of any nature is supposed to get in and question whether the president's assessment of executing the laws is right or wrong.
Well, until the judges make a decision, those troops will remain in limbo, active but not deployed. Once again, we have live team coverage tonight with Alma McCarty at the ICE building and Catherine Cook digging into what a National Guard deployment could look like here if the appeals court clears the way. Catherine?
David, we have some clues from Chicago, where troops are already on the ground with their primary mission, protecting federal property. They could also be used to protect ICE agents in the field. But the question remains, is any of that necessary in Portland?
After weeks of demonstrations in front of the ICE building in South Portland, what might it look like if federalized Oregon National Guard troops were here? As we wait on a ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on whether or not Trump can deploy them, let's look at the possibilities.
My number one concern is the protection and the care of my soldiers while they're deployed on this mission.
That's Brigadier General Alan R. Gronwald, head of the Oregon National Guard. 2 days after Trump called up 200 Oregon National Guard troops, Gronwald spoke to state lawmakers at an informational hearing. He said troops would be trained in crowd control but couldn't make arrests. He also offered this poignant clarification.
That Oregon National Guard men and women they serve 2 purposes. 1, to defend America, and 2, to protect Oregonians. And so by serving in this mission, they will be protecting any protesters at the ICE facility. That's my desire.
Perhaps not what the president has in mind, but with deployment in judicial limbo, Trump is pressing forward.
Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful.
That claim challenged Thursday by yet another federal judge. In Chicago, U.S. District Judge April Perry granted a temporary restraining order against National Guard troops that mobilized this week in Illinois, saying she found no rebellion in Illinois or Chicago. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker celebrated the ruling amid his ongoing objections of Trump's actions.
I'm just, not at all shocked that he keeps repeating something that is false about their claims, because that's what he wants. He wants everybody to think that he is bringing down crime, doing nothing of the sort.
Video showing troops outside an ICE facility in Chicago begs the question, is this what South Portland might soon resemble? If so, Brigadier General Gronwald asked that people distinguish Oregon troops from federal agents.
Our soldiers we're the home team, and our job is to protect and serve Oregonians. And we follow lawful orders, and that's what we're doing, and to please treat them with dignity and respect.
If the mission does move forward, Grunwald says it's possible for it to be cut short, but it could not extend beyond 80 days. David.
Yeah, Catherine, appreciate you looking into that for us tonight. Well, back at the White House, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called out local leaders after her trip to Portland. Here's a taste of what she shared.
They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people.
Well, Noem made those comments in a cabinet meeting today in front of the president. She also said her department is doubling down on its Portland presence by looking to purchase additional space and bringing in more federal law enforcement. Earlier this week, she said 4 times the agents if city officials do not comply with their demands. Those include creating a buffer zone around the ICE facility and designating protest zones. At this stage, state and local officials appear to have rejected any kind of compromise. All right, let's circle back to South Portland and check in with Alma McCarty. Alma, it seems like things kicked off in just the last few minutes there.
Yeah, I would say that they had, David, but at this moment right now, things are back to being peaceful. I'll have my photographer, Dan, just pan over to what we are seeing. Some folks with bubbles, folks standing outside of the ICE facility, of course, those gates. They had the announcement where they then brought folks out. The agents marched out, and then I can tell you that they chased someone. We're not sure who down this street, and then they rounded the corner over by the storage building over there. Not sure if they brought anybody into custody. They came back what appeared to be empty-handed. But again, things at this moment have pretty much calmed down. Earlier this evening, we did see PPB arrest one person for harassment, they say. Meanwhile, Oregon's senators and some Congress people are pushing for the feds for answers on how federal agents are dealing with the protests.
2 weeks after several Oregon lawmakers toured Portland's ICE facility in South Portland, renewed demands for answers. One of the legislators calling for them, Senator Ron Wyden.
My view is this Trump unilateral action is an abuse of executive authority. He is clearly hoping that he can incite violence and undermine the constitutional balance of power between the federal government and our states.
The follow-up questions spelled out in letters to top officials concern detainment and processing here, access to counsel in immigration hearings, and the tactics used by the Federal Protective Service, something protesters tell us they've experienced firsthand.
The only time I felt unsafe is because there was an ICE officer pushing me out of the way, pushing other people, arresting people for doing absolutely nothing.
Some of the inquiries directed to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ask what type of munitions are used against demonstrators, when do agents engage with them, and what kind of criteria is used to make these determinations.
In the morning and in the afternoon, the ICE agents barely went out. You know, you only see like 1 or 2 times when they come out in the entirety of the day. And then the sun sets, 9 o'clock hits, it's dark, there's a lot more people here, and they suddenly get super aggressive. They're spraying people with mace for absolutely no reason. They're just completely amped up.
To counter a national narrative that the city is in some way a war zone, some have turned to humor.
Our town's not on fire. Nothing's blowing up. So that's just ridiculous statements, and the best way to combat that is to come down here and be ridiculous.
The costume demonstrators who were out in force Thursday night still focused on a serious message.
I'm here for our neighbors. I know this is a crazy guise, but we're here at the ICE facility because we just need an end to this, and we've seen too much violence in our neighborhoods.
And while we were out here this evening, we did see 2 additional people taken into custody by federal agents, but it is not clear why. Again, the scene outside of the ICE facility at this point, at this hour, is very peaceful, very calm. David, for now, I'm going to send it back to you.
Yeah, Alma, appreciate your reporting. As always out there, you and Dan stay safe. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of developments at the ICE facility and as the legal case around National Guard troops plays out. Look for the latest at KGW.com, on the KGW mobile app, and our free TV streaming app, KGW+. All right, let's take a look outside now on this Thursday night, Friday Eve. A cooler, though not unpleasant day as we make our way toward what looks like a wet weekend. Celine Stevens is in for Matt. Celine, sounds like the rain is set to arrive pretty much on schedule.
David, yeah, definitely. We even saw some sprinkles a little earlier on in the day. In certain parts of the area here at the station, we didn't get any rainfall, but other areas did. Right now, taking a live look outside the Rose City, 57 degrees at the moment. Those winds going at 6 miles per hour, so it's a cool night. Taking a look at our radar as well, you'll see over the last few hours, we really saw even some thunderstorm activity down south near Hillsborough, Salem, McMinnville. Right now, that doesn't seem to be much of an issue. And again, Portland stayed mostly dry. We stayed dry here at home. But yeah, that rain continues into Friday and then into the weekend. But temperatures at the moment, 57 here, 53 in Vancouver, other 50s like low 50s in Hillsborough and McMinnville. Temperatures have been cool really all day long. Along the coast, more 50s at this hour, 54 degrees in Newport. And so here's where we're going as we get into tomorrow. Right now, it looks like that little break of the rain that we thought we were going to see around noon may not happen or may not last for as long as we thought it would. Looks like showers from your morning commute, and then by noon, we're continuing to see that rainfall all the way through the evening, and that's when it will start to lighten up a little bit. But you'll see it right here real quick. 5 a.m. we're seeing that rain in our area. Through noon, we're still seeing that continuous rainfall. Looks like by 8:30 we get a little bit of a break, but then it'll be back in time for the weekend. We'll talk more about rainfall totals and even snowfall totals in a bit.
Appreciate it, Celine. See you then. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, a woman has been seriously injured after she was hit by a van while sitting on a bench outside Providence Portland Medical Center. This was around 1:30 this afternoon in the hospital parking lot on Northeast Hoyt. Police say the driver of the van was parking when he may have accidentally hit the accelerator. The victim suffered significant injuries but is expected to survive. Oregon State Representative Hoa Nguyen has died after a battle with cancer. Nguyen was the eldest daughter of Vietnamese refugees, attended St. Mary's, and later graduated from Portland State. She was a teacher and school board member and was first elected to the State House in 2022, representing an area that stretched from East Portland to Damascus. Hoa Nguyen was 41 years old. And starting on Monday, the Broadway Bridge will be closed to all vehicles for the next 6 months. That's so crews can replace the decking, which was installed almost 2 decades ago. The streetcar will also be rerouted, though the south sidewalk will remain open for pedestrians and cyclists. The closure will last until April.